في الواقع هنالك أسباب مختلفة تدفعنا لتعلم اللغة الإنجليزية، فالبعض يتعلمها بهدف الدراسة للالتحاق في الجامعات المرموقة بالخارج، وفئة أخرى للارتقاء بمستواه الوظيفي حتى يستطيع التواصل مع عملاء من بلاد مختلفة حول العالم. آخرون للسفر والترفيه. كل هذه الأسباب أكيد تعتبر من الأسباب الرائعة جدا وحقا. الكثير من الدوافع تسير بنا نحو تطوير مهاراتنا واكتساب خبرات جديدة لتعلم اللغة الإنجليزية، ولكن هل تتحدثها بطلاقة؟ وكيف يمكننا تحديد مستوى الطلاقة أثناء الحديث باستخدام هذه اللغة؟ يعتقد الكثيرون أن تحدث اللغة الإنجليزية بطلاقة أو أي لغة بصفة عامة تقتصر على الناطقين بها كلغة أو يجب متعلمها أن يكون ملم بجميع المفردات والتعبيرات وكل القواعد اللغوية وطريقة النطق، وهذا ليس المعنى الدقيق، وذلك ما يقودنا للتعرف على معنى الطلاقة. ننتقل الآن إلى محاضرتنا اليوم الأستاذة فاطمة طه المحترمة للبدء بمحاضرتنا اليوم، فلتتفضل مشكورة. تفضلي الست.
أشكر حضرتك دكتور حامد، أشكر جامعة العراق والعميد على الدعوة الكريمة. أشكر كمان أستاذ محمد جمال لأنه هو اللي تواصل معي بشكل مباشر، وهو عضو نشط جدا ومتعلم يعني شغوف باللغة الإنجليزية. اسمحوا لي أنا هبدأ السيشن، لكن هنبدأ السيشن دي بما إن إحنا بنتكلم how to improve speaking fluency، هتبقى السيشن بالإنجليش. تمام؟ بس أوعدكم إن شاء الله كل شيء يكون واضح، وهيكون في وقت للأسئلة في النهاية، never and don't worry. So let's just start right away. Let me talk to you about what we're going to do today. In our agenda today, we'll learn about language acquisition, or how can a person acquire and get a language. We'll look at some problematic areas of speaking. We'll also look at the practical steps to improve fluency, and we will look closely between the difference of fluency and accuracy. Let me start first by asking my attendees here, how do you rate your speaking ability? From 1 to 5. I want you to write in the chat box, how do you rate? 1 is the lowest, 5 is the highest rank. So if you were to put a number on your speaking fluency, would it be 1, or would it be 3 or 2 or 4 or 5? I'm looking at your answer to the chat box. All right. Yes, so lots of answers here. See people saying 4, 3, 4. Okay. So you're quite fluent, most of you. Abdullah says between 2 and 3. Yes, 3. Ithartha is 4. Okay, 4. All right. So I'm getting that most of you feel that you're quite confident when you speak, and so your speaking fluency is good. All right. Okay. So I have another question for you. And again, please, in the chat box, in your opinion, what is the main problem when you speak? So what is your main fear when you speak English? I'm looking again at the chat box here. So Muhammad Adil says he loses confidence. Okay, but why? What makes you lose confidence? What other things make you lose confidence or feeling it's difficult for you to speak English. Why is it difficult? Fluency is not appropriate. Yes, Mu'min Adil says fear of making mistakes. Pronunciation, Jamal says. Okay. Feel like I'm out of words. Okay, Abdullah, all right. Any other suggestion? What could be the problem when you speak English? You forget some words, vocabulary, fear of making mistakes, Abdullah says, yes. Problem in fluency, Ghada says, okay. Vocabulary again, okay. So let me share with you some of the problems that I know my students over the year have had, and I have been teaching since 2009, and that's almost 13 to 14 years now. So I sometimes get people saying, I fear that if I talk, people will not understand me. So that's the number one. And then again, not enough vocabulary. I don't really have the words for it. Okay, that's also a valid reason. Grammar inaccuracies. I feel that I make lots of mistakes, so it's an accuracy problem. Okay. Yeah, so, but this one here, that one I put in yellow, is the main problem most of my students and most of non-native speakers feel, is that I'm afraid to make mistakes. People will not understand me. It's difficult to get the message across. I don't know how I will be perceived. I'm afraid people will laugh at me. So that is all summing up the problem of fluency. So it's not really a problem of vocabulary much or grammar much, but it's again that problem of confidence, self-confidence, and I'm afraid to make mistakes. So I have a question for you here, and I want everyone here to participate with me, if you wish. In your opinion, how does a child, a 4-year-old child with English parents, speak English? What makes such a child fluent in English? He's only 4-year-old. So if you think of the first couple of years, he could not speak at all. And if you think of the second and sorry, the third and the fourth year, so it's gradual how he speaks English. But by the age of 4, they can speak and communicate in English really well. And you would know that this is a native speaker child. So why? And how does that happen? So Mu'min says, by learning from mistakes, I guess. All right. Because of listening, repeating, Abdullah says, the good environment of such fluency, practice. Okay. Imitation of their parents, I suppose that's also. I'm going to mute everybody if you don't mind, because of the noise on the background, if that's okay. Every time around him is in English, yes. Listening, Ali Naif says, all right. Well, all these are valid reasons, but how? First, when he listens, first couple of years, he's listening passively, which simply means is that when he is listening to people around him, he's not interacting, he's just getting in the language, you know, surrounded by the language and getting it, okay. And then he tries to form simple words, yeah. And then he could be forming simple sentences as he develops with plenty of mistakes, that is to say, which means that adults around him or her try to reformulate their language. So you make a mistake and I give it back to you. Ah, do you mean biscuits? Do you mean you want to go to the toilet? Do you mean so and so? Ah, you mean, and so this is reformulating. You say something wrong and I give it back to you in a form of question or just, commenting on what you said. But make no mistake, a child is not afraid of making mistakes. And that is the main difference, ladies and gentlemen, between a non-native speaker and a native speaker. Because most of us learn English from kindergarten or primary school, and you keep learning English as you go until university. And then if you want to go into master's degree, you still need English for that. And you need to set for tests and stuff, and that's all in English. But still, you're not confident enough to speak the language or even to write in it. And the reason is simply, you're just afraid of making mistakes. Excuse me. So, what does actually fluency mean? And if you can write for me in that chat box here, what does fluency mean to you? Or maybe, if you wish, you could raise your hands here and I can open the mic for you if you want to. So it means coherence for Alia, okay. Speaking in English regardless of mistakes, Reda says, okay. Speaking easily, reasonably, quickly, and without having to stop and pause a lot. Thank you, Abdullah, that's quite comprehensive. Okay, speaking like a native without having any problems doing it, Abdullah. Communication, Muhammad Adel. That you find the words in the suitable time, Hiba says. Yes, that's another definition, of course. That would be slang language, Abdullah. Ability to express yourself, mastering the language. All right, all right. All that is valid. But when we want to define fluency, and because I specialize in teaching IELTS, I want to share with you Cambridge definition of fluency. When you sit for a test like the IELTS test, fluency and coherence is exceptionally important. If you're not fluent enough, you will not get a high band, regardless of how much vocabulary and grammar you have. And so when we look at a band 8 here, which is a very good user of English, it says speaking fluently without frequent repetition, self-correction, or any hesitation. And if there is hesitation, it's just related to content, but not to language. Yes. All right. So in a nutshell, I would say fluency is, you're right, speaking with no hesitation or very limited hesitation. And if there is hesitation, it's not because you're looking for the words, but more of, I'm thinking of the idea, what I want to say later on. And also, when you speak, it's quite easy for the person listening to you to follow your argument. It's easy to understand you. So it's quite coherent. You're using stuff like signpost language and so on. And there is also the idea of backtracking. Sometimes when I'm with my students and I'm asking them questions, they say the sentence and then they repeat it again because they want to buy themselves time. So for example, they would say, fluency is to speak fluency is to speak, fluency is to speak, and that's what I call backtracking. You say something and then you repeat it again. And there's, of course, the more you correct yourself when you speak, the less fluent and coherent you seem. So in a nutshell, these are the four main components when I say, this person is quite fluent in English, because they do not hesitate. It's easy to follow them, understand them. They do not backtrack. They do not self-correct a lot. Thank you, Muhammad. I'm a bit tired today. I could not refuse and say no to this kind invitation. So I want you to tell me if you agree or don't agree with this sentence. Does speaking or does practice make perfect or not? In your chat box, please. So most people here say yes, yes. In fact, yes, yes, it does. Sure, yes, absolutely. All right, so all of you think so? You know what? I disagree. Not all practice makes perfect. I want to add another word for the word practice here. It's meaningful practice that makes perfect, which means, well, let me tell you what I mean by meaningful practice. It's all about the how and the when you do it. You all said that if a child can speak English at the age of 4, that's because they're surrounded by the language. And so what I want, and the first piece of advice for everybody listening to me, if you really want to improve the language, stop dealing with it as a subject and deal with it as a living thing, a language. Enjoy it. Surround yourself with this language. And I'm just not saying this haphazardly. I have a plan for you. And this is something I personally do, which is I listen to English all the time. But then you would say all the time, that would be really boring or difficult, or I don't have the time to do that. But let me tell you this. I am sure that most of you here commute a lot. So if you are commuting, if you are spending a lot of time going to work and going to school and spending lots of time in the bus and the transportation whatsoever, all you need to do is put on your headphones and listen to audiobooks. That's a fantastic way to do it, and it's also fun because when you're listening to a story, something that is engaging, something that could be interesting to you. Find the kind of novels or stories that you like and don't read it, but listen to it in audiobooks. Because while reading is really good in improving English, but when you read, you sometimes make mistakes and you're not 100% sure of the pronunciation of the word that you're reading if it's a new word. However, if you listen to it through audiobooks, you will definitely get the right pronunciation. And because in novels, the writers usually use a certain range of vocabulary and the words are repeated in different contexts. And guess what? When a word is repeated a lot for you, what happens is that you see it in different contexts, separate times over the audiobook, which means it's guaranteed to stick in your memory. And by time, you'll be able to use it yourself. Now, my favorite website that I go to every time I'm doing some household chores or commuting or just wanting to relax before bed is called audiobooks4soul.com. Let me, if you don't mind, I would like to share this website here, and I'm gonna put it here in the chat box for everybody to see. So please, I encourage you to go visit this fantastic website. When you go to it, you will find different genres. So if you're into thrillers, you'll find it. If you like something that's romantic and gooey, you will find it. If you want something that is about crime, something that's fun, something about self-help books, all of them are available in this audiobooks website. But do I only listen? No, that's your first step, is listening, and make sure that you're enjoying yourself while doing that. Do not deal with this as a chore. It's not a punishment. It's not a task that you have to do it. It's not that you're swallowing the dead frog here. No, you're doing this because it's fun, because you want to surround yourself with the language. And then while you're listening to it, secretly try to imitate what you hear. So the person in the audiobook or the reader of this or the narrator is saying a sentence that's interesting to you. You try to repeat it and imitate it as you hear it. And the more you repeat it, the better you become in it. But make no mistake, I do not just want you to parrot the word. No, I want you to try to put it in different contexts, and that's where you can be imaginative. Now, to do this, to put words in different contexts, you have, to imagine, visualize a certain situation in your head where you are going to use this situation or this word. For example, the word eavesdropper. Eavesdropper means that if someone is talking to another person is just listening behind doors to private conversations. So they're eavesdropping. So you would try to visualize it, imagine the situation, and create situations where you will be able to use the word eavesdropper so that it does not, you do not lose it over time. Because if you listen to a word passively and you do not imitate it and you do not repeat it and you do not put it in certain different contexts, you will forget it over time. No matter what you do, you gotta use it. And that's where your imagination comes. So this is also when I would say you would really, really need to find a partner in crime. Someone whose target is also to improve their fluency. Someone who's in your level, below your level, more than you in English. It does not really matter, but what matters really is someone with the same interest, someone who enjoys listening to the same audiobooks, for example, that you are listening to, and you get together and you discuss it and you try to use the vocabulary that you've done it or that you've heard or that was really interesting for you, and maybe even try to deduce or figure out or understand the meaning of those words together. But, and let's be realistic here, we don't always find this willing partner, right? Am I right? Can you always find this person who's willing to talk to you all the time in English? Can you? Well, if you can't, here is one. Thank you, Abdullah. Exactly, that's why I was, wanting, or I was just hitting for, which is, if you don't find a human being who's willing to be your partner, here is a robot that is willing to do it for you. This one here is called Speak and Improve. This is, you know, a Cambridge website, so it's quite valid. It gives you questions and you record your answers. What it does is that it highlights for you the mistakes that you've made, and it also gives you the, you know, it gives you feedback. It tells you that this language or what you've answered today is B1 level, A1 level, A2 level, and so on. So Speak and Improve, that's a Cambridge website that you can go to and use it to practice speaking English for free. Now, sometimes when we want to improve our fluency, we're not just doing it for the fun of it, but we also want it for certain exams. Now, most of the time when people want to do speaking for exams, they go for stuff like IELTS. They go for stuff like exams like the TOEFL or any Cambridge approved test, because the purpose usually for IELTS when taking English exams to prove their proficiency. And so what I would say is, if you are going for a speaking test, right, and you want to improve your speaking fluency quickly, these are the steps that you need to follow. Number one, watch as many videos as you can of this test. You would always find them on YouTube or available online. You see the style of the test. Get to know the test itself and the structure of the question. So memorize the order, it makes your life easier. All right, and then try to know how speaking is assessed, because every test has its own criteria. By that I mean, so sometimes they are looking for speaking and fluency and coherence. They're looking for the wide range of vocabulary, like in the IELTS test, like they want a wide range of grammatical structure. They want to see how you can use complex structure. They want language related or interaction in the test. So how is this speaking test assessed? Try to know you. Know about yourself, about your hobbies, about your preferences, about your home. Quite often, and this is very surprising, you find a person in the test and you're asking them as an examiner. I'm asking, for example, what do you do? And they go like, I'm a student. But you need to expand your answer. You need to tell me that, oh, I'm a student of pharmacy. I have been, you know, I've been studying pharmacy for like 4 years now, and it's quite my passion, really. And so the difference between I'm a student and I've been studying pharmacy for so and so is that you've shown me a range of grammatical structure and complexity in your speech, and that's what you should aim for. But to do that, you need to understand that all the English tests in the world will start about you, what you do, what you like, what you prefer, the kind of home that you have. And so going from that, try to have some answers ready about the stuff that you like, about yourself. Shouldn't be that difficult. Try to expand, and that's another step here, try to expand your range of vocabulary by topic. For example, most English speaking tests, they ask you about parks, they ask you about restaurants, they ask you about sickness and health, sports, activities, leisure time. So this is very common, and because they're common and they're very known to everybody, what you really need to do is to have a range ready, range for vocabulary by topic. And then also try to memorize some useful signpost language, because it's very important when we speak to listen to someone saying, I reckon that, the way I see it, I believe that, or there is a huge difference between this and that. So using signpost language or phrases that that signals to the speaker or to the person in front of you that your speaking is coherent, organized, I can follow your argument. That is quite important. And also try to be ready for speculative phrases, asking for clarification. And more often than not, when I ask a person in the exam a question, like for example, because I teach IELTS, I ask them, how often do you wear hats? So they panic and freeze and they're like, what? I don't understand. But if you don't understand, why not ask for clarification? Why not say, I'm not quite sure I understand what you mean. Could you please paraphrase that? Or would you please come again? So asking for clarification is not a wrong thing. It's actually a plus. Your ability to do that in English is fantastic and could give you and buy you lots of time and also grades. Yes, Abdullah, exactly. So if, again, one more time, if you are looking for practice for an English exam or a test, these are some of the steps that you need to be aware of. Now, let me sum up what we did today. And I want to do this by asking my attendees here. I want you to write down in that chat box something that you've learned today, something that you still remember, or something that you can use for later after you leave this session. Thank you, Abdullah, saying meaningful practice. Improving your vocabulary. Practice makes, well, Ali, I just told you meaningful practice makes perfect, but not just, you know, not just some random practice using audiobooks. Exactly. Thank you so much. I sincerely hope that you get this and you start doing this, because the more you surround yourself with the language, believe me, you'll be surprised by the huge leap of improvement that you will have. Thank you, Abdullah. So this is now time for questions. If you have a question, please go ahead, do ask me. Oh, I got a question already. Reda is saying how to improve and enhance my young learners' English language fluency. But haven't I just said, surround them with the language. In your classroom, if you're an English teacher, Reda, what you really need to do is to start using English all the time with them, no matter how they complain, because they will complain. Whether these are your children or these are your English learners, younger or older, use English at all levels. A1 level, young learners, 5-year-old, 4-year-old, use English all the time. But of course, do not make them frustrated. Give them the tools for it. If you are strict about the use of English in the classroom, by time they will acquire simple phrases, survival phrases, if you wish, that will help them communicate with you. So instead of saying, يا ميسي هالكلمة دي معناها إيه? They should learn to say, please, how can I say this in English? Yeah, Marwa, let me again one more time. I'm gonna put the link of the audiobooks for Soul that I use. And like, for example, if you're into Twilight, you know, that kind of movie, that's also a book, Harry Potter, The Maze Runner, Gone with the Wind, all of that, all of that. Oh, there are hundreds of applications available for you to learn the language from. But what I just want you to do is not to overwhelm yourself, Ghada, with all those applications. Use and get, you know, start a routine with a language, something that is reliable, something that you can use and enjoy. And that's the most important thing, because people get bored. If you deal with this as a chore, as something that you have to do, I really have to do this, I really need to improve my English, so I just have to listen to this or that. That's not how it works, because you'll just get bored in the middle. So you have to find your own enjoyment in it. Oh, well, Iman Ahmed is saying, how can we deal with the learner's mistake? Well, you, Iman, ask yourself this question. Is this mistake fatal? That, for example, I taught them present simple, and I want them, because teachers are always obsessed with accuracy over fluency. I want them to say the present simple correct. I want them to make no mistakes when they use he, she, it, followed by verb s. They should not make any mistakes with that. But you ask yourself, is the task that I'm using about accuracy or about fluency? And then is your answer. Because it's about accuracy, stick to the accuracy. But if it's about fluency, it's the production at the end, and you want them to enjoy and to feel, you know, feel happy with what they've achieved, you know, do not give them mistakes, because, or do not point fingers at people who make mistakes, and collect them at the end and just put them on the board and start analyzing them and get them to find out this mistake, and get the students themselves to correct the mistakes themselves, but anonymously, without pointing fingers. And Iman, the idea of mistakes correction and error correction is huge in the English language teaching. It needs, you know, 100 more workshops for me to cover. Abdullah, accents do not really matter. What matter is the person in front of you, they understand you. The person in front of you, they can communicate with you. You can communicate with them. So languages or accents, I'm sorry, accents do not matter. What matter is your ability to communicate. I have too much word, but some time when I speak forgetting, what can I do? Wissam, this is every English learner's nightmare. I have the words, I have learned them, I really know the word for it. But did you know that even in Arabic, we can forget the words we want, but what we do is we try to ask the person in front of us to, you know, I drop hints. For example, imagine that we're having a conversation and I forgot the word watermelon. I don't remember. So what I do is, well, it's this kind of fruit. It's, you know, that big, and it's usually green from the outside. You know what I mean? It's green from the outside, really juicy though, and from the outside. So there is little, you know, black things in. What's black seeds? What's the word? Yeah. So the person in front of you will give you the word. Guys, English is about communication. It's not about being perfect. It's about being able to deliver the message across and get the person in front of you to communicate with you, because this could happen to you even in Arabic. And the more you practice with a person, or the more you use a word, the more you will be able to have it stuck in your memory, if you wish. For example, now Wissam, you just said the word forget. I am 100% sure that you will not forget the word forget, because you're using it a lot. So here's your answer to this. I can't speak good enough, but I do not know how to deal with the grammar problems all the time. What can I do? Well, Isra, I'm 100% sure that you are my Isra, right? From Casablanca class, right? But if that's your problem, Isra, remember, in your task and when you speak, uh, are you speaking for a language test? Because if it's a test, then try to understand the criteria for this test and see what grammar issues or what grammar points that you need to work on in order for you to get a good band or a good grade. But if you're talking about real life, who cares? Who cares if you make grammar problems? Native speakers' grammar is not that perfect, by the way. But what you can do is, you know, Isra, that you have a problem, for example, in the F conditionals. Create a situation when you will need to use the F conditional. Go to your classroom with the mindset that I want to use English today, and I'm going to use it all the session through, from the start to the very end. Find a partner, again, like I said, but most importantly, create the situation when you will need to use this grammar point and use it over and over and over again until you've mastered it. All right. I misspell a lot. How do I deal with this problem? Well, the problem with English is that what you say is not usually what you write. So there is a difference between the words and the sound, and it's okay. But some of the books that I've been using with my students, they tell them that when you learn a new word and you know that there is a syllable in this word that is not pronounced, or a syllable that you feel I always make mistake with this, like for example, is it receive R-S-E-I or R-S-C-I-E? Are there rules? Yes, there are rules, of course, but most of the time there are lots of exceptions. So we really don't bother with learning the rules of this. But what we do is simply, when you get a word that is difficult for you, or a word that you're learning, put the syllable that you are writing and you have a problem with in different color, or capitalize it so it stands out. Make it visual, because spelling is about visualization. It's about your ability to see the word and how it pops out in front of your eyes. So when you write this word and you're trying to learn it and memorize it by writing, what I do with my children is that I get them to color code it. Find the word that is difficult and put the syllable that is difficult for you in a different color. I think that half of learning a language is in practice. What do you say? I say it's in meaningful practice, Wissam, not just any practice. And for that, I will get you back to the idea of meaningful practice here. Yeah. All righty. So any other questions? No? Yeah, of course it does. It does, Abdullah, if this is what you enjoy. Some people, you know, they don't enjoy audiobooks. So what they do is that they like self-help, you know, so but still there are self-help books. But they, for example, like TED Talks. So you listen to a TED Talk with English subtitle if you must, if it's that really difficult with vocabulary. And then again, you deal with it in a sort of, okay, I'm gonna listen to it over and over and over again until I'm able to imitate and repeat the certain words or phrases. Because do not learn a word out of context. You have to learn the word in the story or the context that it came with, and that's how you conquer it. And again, if you do this because you have to, or because you are a student of English, or because you must, you know, improve your fluency, you will not continue doing it. You have to enjoy it. You have to find the thing that you like and do it in English. So some people are really into gaming, video games. And I had this student once. I was doing a placement test and this student came in. His grammar or his, you know, written English was horrible, honestly, but his speaking was perfect. And I was like, how are you different from everyone else? He said, I like video games a lot. And so when I video game live with other people who are, because English is an international language, they are all using English around me. And so I end up using English because I want to communicate a certain message to them, and it has to be in English. And so what I like is what I get. I like doing video games and I do it in English. So I kill two birds with one stone. So again, enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, you'll just end up bored, and you'll just end up saying, oh, that's too much. I'm just bored. I'm not gonna do it. It's no, but you do it because you want it, because you have this intrinsic motive that today I really want to listen to this story. I'm really into that Gone with the Wind. I really want to listen to the book itself. So thank you, Ghada. Thank you. All right, any other questions before we say goodbye?
Hello, Dr. Fatima.
Hello,
can you hear me?
Jamal.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
I have a question from the chat box from another student. He said, why people get stuck on words while speaking? So he tried to...
While what? I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Why people get stuck on words while speaking? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. He tried to memorize a list of words which are barely related to each other. So, and
yes.
noting down onto the notebook. I think he used the traditional way for the learning. It's just a waste of time and effort. Right?
I second your opinion. Of course. Yeah. And what you actually need to do is, like I said, put it in a context, put it in a story, put it in a situation where you will be able to memorize it and remember it and use it quite often. So I can't really remember, but there is this application where you feed it the new words that you've learned, and it will repeat the words for you. It gives you a reminder of this word after, one day, and then a week, and then a month, and so on, so that you can remember it. But then again, if you do not put it in a sentence and try to put it and insert it in your speech, you will not remember it. I myself, as an advanced English speaker, I'm not a native of English. I'm Egyptian, so I'm not a native English. And I have this huge range of vocabulary because I'm an English teacher after all, and I'm really into listening to audiobooks. So I've got this humongous, range of vocabulary. But still, when I speak, am I able to use all of them and to remember each and every advanced vocabulary that I've learned? Not necessarily. I'm only remembering, and I'm only using the ones that I use frequently, the ones that are on the tip of my tongue. So if you want a word to stay on the tip of your tongue, you gotta put it in situation, meaningful situation, create a conversation with someone where you can use this word. But if you, believe me, if you do not use it, you will forget it. Easy come, easy go.
Yeah, that's right. Sometimes forget words so quickly. It is the lack of the concentration, age, or stress, medication, effects of these things.
Well, yes, Jamal, of course, age has, is an element, of course, because from my own experience, I'm now trying to learn Deutsch because my daughter is starting Deutsch at her school. And so I'm finding it quite difficult for me, to grasp, these words that I'm saying to myself, am I really getting that old? But what I do is, there is this on SoundCloud and on YouTube, some videos which says learn, for example, Deutsch while you sleep. And it repeats a certain range of vocabulary over and over and over and over again. Yeah. And I listen to them, and before I go to bed, and I keep the headphones on when I'm sleeping and listening to them, so that I'm hoping that my subconscious will pick up the word as much as possible. And I'm again doing this because I'm now old, and so I will not be sorry. I will not be able to learn a language and pick it as quickly as I used to when I was younger. So, of course, Abdullah, it works with our languages. You will find lots of these things available on SoundCloud and on YouTube as well. But again, nothing, works by magic. Everything needs time, passion, and practice.
I think we didn't have any questions.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Fatima, for accepting our invitation. We are delighted today. Yeah, it is very useful workshop. I hope you will give us another workshop in the future for the postgraduate researcher for the writing analysis and how to do the plagiarism for the articles, inshallah.
Sure, of course.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody who attended today. Thank you, doctors. Thank you so much for this honor.
Yeah. Thank you and goodbye.